Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Huddersfield Town Fans Online Fan Forum. I'm not Stephen Chicken, I'm the other half of We Are Terriers. Stephen has been away on holiday and has come back not very well, so I have taken over. For the night, we have a panel with us answering your questions, and we had an unbelievable response when we put out a call for questions. So many that we've had to, I will come out with it right off the top, we've had to refine a lot of them back to some key subjects because we had hundreds. We could be here all evening going through them. So tonight's panel, we've got Club CEO Jake Edwards, we've got Chief Revenue Officer Paul Reeves, and there was a number of operational and football questions. So we've expanded that panel to include Chief Operating Officer Dave Farrell-Sykes and Head Coach Michael Duff, who will need no introduction, I'm sure. And Michael, your time is a bit precious tonight, so we're going to start with a couple of questions for yourself, and we'll get straight into it. Our first question is from Barnaby Dale, and I'll be honest with you, I've picked this one because I asked you this question after the game on Saturday, and you gave an excellent, extremely eloquent answer to it, so no pressure. But in the last few years, barring a few exceptions, our goal has been to stay in the division. But given the different objectives this year, how have you, or how do you intend to install that winning culture and mindset within the football club?
Well, it's a difficult one. Something that we've walked into is, at the start of the season, the team that's just dealt with the relegation. I think it's been probably 2 or 3 years of sort of gradual, just getting closer and closer to the edge. And then ultimately the club goes down, and then it's a whole new reset. But a lot of the reset is with the same group of players. So a lot of the players that were signed were to stay in the league, to fight relegation. The Championship's a completely different animal. And then all of a sudden, it's right, you've got to win every game now, and now you're one of the biggest clubs in the league. So that's tough to deal with from a mentality point of view with the players. And a lot of their skill sets are different as well. So a lot of the players are, bunker in, be hard to beat, dogged, terrier spirit, all that sort of thing. And then it's, like you said, the expectation from everyone at the football club is, right, we want to get promoted.
Yeah.
But you've got the same group, a lot of the same group. And so we're trying to change that mentality of when there's adversity, which we've seen, one of the biggest part of the first half of the season was basically, it was all mentality based. It was, we found that when there was a little bit of adversity, people sort of went into self-protection mode a little bit, not consciously, but probably an inbuilt habit that we tried to get rid of, and we made loads and loads of progress in terms of that. You're trying to get a team that's used to 30% of the ball to now 60-70% of the ball. Different expectations come with that as well. So there's lots and lots of different challenges while still trying to win games of football. Ultimately, we all know, I'm under no illusions that you have to win games of football at any football club. So they are the main challenges. I think the players have been receptive. I think supporters would have seen a change in the mentality as the season's gone on. We're in a difficult run at the minute, there's no getting away from that, but I don't think it's a case of we're getting battered, and I don't think it's a case of we've gone under in any games, possibly the first hour at Northampton. But you're going to have moments like that in a season. So it's bringing out, a lot of it's day-to-day habits. That's where the players have been really good in terms of the behaviours, the standards, driving, those types of things. And they do play out a lot of the time in the games. And now the thing that we found, that the next challenge, particularly at home, is teams are giving us a lot of the ball, and we need to be better with it and do more with it. So that's just the next challenge. But it's constantly evolving. But the mentality, there has been a shift. That's what we're trying to instill every day still. Probably not as eloquent as it was on Saturday.
No, very good, very good. We've got a section of questions that kind of boil down to the same thing. So we've got a question from Neil Bowman, a question from Doug Barnett, question from Liam Grant, and they all really come down to the same thing, which is the recruitment process behind our strikers. Because there is a sort of perception that we've got a lot that have got the same profile. Okay, so can you just talk a little bit about the recruitment process for Taylor and Charles, why you didn't go for a tall target man to offer something different perhaps?
Yeah, I think you're trying to get the best value for what's out there and the best players that are out there. You can go and sign basketball players if you want to, because they'll be tall. So it's not a case of we specifically gone and signed 2 5'9" centre forwards. I think anyone in my position, everyone wants Didier Drogba. Everyone wants someone who's 6'4", who can hold it up, who can run in behind, who can link play and can score goals. But there's not many of them around. Mm-hmm. So, with the players that were here as well, you had Bojan here, who's 6'4". You got Freddie, who's a bigger profile. Reece Healy isn't the biggest, but plays a lot bigger than what he is. So we had that physicality there anyway. So with Dion plays bigger than what he is. So it isn't a case of we're in League One. So, and a lot of the players are in League One for a reason, that they can't do all the things that Didier Drogba did. So normally they've got some sort of deficiency. So then it's finding out. So we could go and sign a 6'6" centre forward, but there wasn't any out there for a start that we felt that could maybe run or press or hold the ball up well enough. So these are all the things that, as you go through the list, it's a tick, it's a tick, it's a tick, it's a tick, and there's more ticks than not. So I understand supporters' point of view, because, like I said, they want to see big man, little man. It's getting what's out there. So Joe Taylor, I think everyone's happy when the two signings were made. It hasn't quite worked yet. One's been injured. Dion hasn't quite hit the ground running yet. But they've not become bad players. So in terms of the recruitment, did we have bigger type players on the list? Yes. But were they as good as a player? And again, it's an overall package. And you've got it's finances come into it, personality comes into it, character comes into it. Age, experience. Joe's he's one for now, but in terms of, we're hoping he's got a resale value because hopefully he'll develop and go on with us. So these are all types of things that get put into the melting pot. I can't think of any centre forwards that you would class as a target man that would go. Maybe Lyndon Dykes at Birmingham, but they're paying over £1 million and a lot of money on wages for someone that never plays. We're not in that position, because they've covered all bases. They've got big ones, little ones, quick ones. We're not in that position where we can sign every player for every position. So did we actively at the start of the window go, right, we're going to try and sign two small strikers? That wasn't the case at all. They were the best players on offer, and we did it really early to give us the best chance. We've obviously had a difficult January. Yeah. There's no hiding behind that, but we believe they were the best two players out there that fitted into all our criteria.
You've sort of touched on some things from Andy Shaw's question, but I'm still going to ask it anyway to give you a chance to just expand a little bit on a couple of things. He's asked, do we use or have any data around the personality and psychological profile of players to unlock incitement into their recruitment or their team performance potentially? Is there a combination of profiles that correlate to outcomes? Basically, have you got your sort of list of certain key qualities in key positions that you want to try and recruit all across the pitch?
I have certain things that I want to, there's probably a tick list of 4. And again, you're working in priority of what's most important. In terms of personality and character, it's difficult at this level. Football's a village. So every player that we've signed, I'll know someone that they've worked for. And that's how it works. That's why sometimes players don't understand when they do kick off. It's like, well, the next club, they're going to ring me, mate. So it's actually going to hurt you in the long run. You get to places like Liverpool, for example. I know when they signed Emre Can, Liverpool sent someone secretively because they found out where he was going on holiday. So someone's literally sat in the sunbed opposite the pool and watched him for 2 weeks because they're spending that much money and they're going into that. You took in with the wages 80, 90, 100 million pound investments now. So at that level, they go into that depth. We can't do that, but we do try and find out. We have turned players down this year because it's like, I'm not sure about his personality. I'm not sure he'll fit into the group. And that is a big part of it. You don't want... There was a lot of noise last year made before I came in about the group. I haven't found that. But we want to make sure that anyone coming in does need to fit in with the team ethos, not an individual ethos, because if the team wins, we're all winning. I say it all the time. People at the top, the chairman, the supporters, the players, me, when the team's winning, everyone's happy. So it's trying to bring players in that have all got the same common goal. And they're individuals within that, but on their own, they're no good. So if you're working with someone that's only interested in themselves, that is no good for no
one. The next one from Nathan Lewis is quite short and sweet, but it's something that I know a lot of fans are quite keen because there's a lot that goes into the process. And Mark Cartwright was unavailable tonight, so it was great that you've been able to step in and answer these questions directly for us and give this level of insight. But it's how much input does Michael Duff have on signings and contracts? And I think it's been quite a key thing here to try and work out the process, how much say a manager has, etc. So I would sort of add a little supplemental to that. Are you completely comfortable with the recruitment process? You're the people you're working with, etc.?
Yeah, the two parts to that, I don't get involved in the contracts at all. So once there's a decision made on a player, it's completely... So I am part of that process. So you can't just rely on me or the staff because we only watch a certain amount of players. Obviously, we have a recruitment team. So we have meetings with them, and sometimes they bring up players that we've never seen. So we'll sit and watch them and go through certain things. And, you know, with people like Ruben and things, you've not seen enough of them that you like. But that's why you have a system in place. But we're definitely involved in the decision-making in terms of, no, we like him. I've made phone calls. He's made phone calls about the personality and all those types of things that we get access to. But it's a collaborative effort. And then once the decision's been made, obviously then it then goes to Mark. And then deals might fall down along the way in terms of they want too much money. The agent wants too much money. The club want too much money. So there's so many things that go into signing a player. So sometimes the recruitment and the coaching staff are like, yeah, go and get him. He's not available. He's not coming out. It costs too much money. He wants this, he wants that. Sometimes it's not the players, sometimes it's the agents. And then it's all right, we'll score it off, we'll go on to the next one. So supporters, I think, don't understand sometimes how much work goes into making one signing because they just assume that you identify someone and go, right, we'll go and get him. You know, we've had players in the building in pre-season and passed medicals, and they still didn't quite get over the line. So there's so many moving parts in any transfer. Ultimately, it's a collaborative effort. I don't think one person goes, that's the reason why I have the head coach model, because everyone needs to be, because what you don't want is you get rid of me, which might happen. It's football. You don't want to have to get rid of every player because the new manager wants a whole load. You want some sort of structure, some sort of strategy that if, for whatever reason, it doesn't work with me, the next manager comes and the club are happy with the players that he's working with. And I think that's where we're trying to get to. So in answer to your question, yeah, I think the two windows have been good. As a general rule, the players that are brought in, the age of the players that were brought in, the type of players in terms of a bit more creative rather than combative, because we had a lot of combative players. But what doesn't happen in football, you're not going to go from there to there in one or two windows. It's a journey, and that's not me saying we want to get rid of everyone that's been here before. It's stage by stage, and I think the three things that the three players that we brought in in the January window, they can all run. No, they're not 6'6", but Joe's blisteringly quick. Ruben's got really good athleticism. Yeah. Dion's a little bit of everything and experienced. So it's trying to cover bases, rather than just going. We could go and get 2 6'6" centre forward. Jade Rodriguez has just gone to Wrexham. I played with Jade Rodriguez. He played for England. Brilliant player, but I don't think he's a profile that we want at the minute moving forward. I've got the same agent as him. It's not like we didn't have an opportunity, but again, there's other things that fit in that might not work. So there is a strategy, believe it or not. I think the summer window, the two windows that I've been here, I think the players that have been brought in are fitting into a journey where we want to get to.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I know your time is a little bit precious tonight. You've got another engagement, but I hope you can see why we wanted Michael here, and fantastic level of insight to those questions. But I'm going to put a question now to Jake, and I think, Paul, you might have some input on this as well. It's come from a Josh G, but there was a very similar question from Josh Sykes with a lot more detail to it, but they're basically covering the same ground, which is, we see Huddersfield Town creating more merchandise, building and developing on already installed infrastructure, which is great. But how are Huddersfield Town attempting to get more people to come and support Huddersfield Town and attend games on a regular basis? Basically, how are you trying to grow the size of the club and its fan base from here?
Great, I'll start. Thanks, Dave. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks, Mike, for kicking us off there. And you might have to step out. You step out when you need to. It is critically important to us, yes, that we continue to grow the fan base. that we appeal to all aspects of the community here. We do a lot of work in that area, probably quite a bit of that is sight unseen, probably across the supporter base. We have a big push, certainly starting with the youth levels, to make sure we can capture the attention, the imagination of the young folks in and around Huddersfield and this region. We have the Terrier 7 program. We've got some group sales executives at the club that are in the community, that are in the schools, that are getting some of our staff in front of kids at a young age and getting them to come to the games. We've got the family stand in the Terriers Together stand there, so a lot of the school kids are coming into there. A lot of the young families are coming into that. We've got certain activities around the stadium on match days to sort of engage and make sure they're having a good experience when they're with us. There's a lot of outreach that goes on through the EDI work we do, trying to penetrate communities that we know love football but just don't really engage with the football club. And so why is that? We're trying to break down barriers and be a destination. We think about the other outlets like our the women's football program here. We work with the women's football team, distributing tickets and working with them to engage perhaps a new audience that we aren't reaching currently. So it is important that we continue to build. We've got a great fan base here, great historic club, but I think really the work starts with the younger age group, so we can get them on the journey. We've seen a lot of season card holders from last year that have renewed, that are progressing up the age groups, staying with us. So that's really good to see. Paul might add some more to that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think we're all aware, Dave, that to fill a football stadium, ultimately it's the football that's on the pitch that drives that. So I think from my perspective, we're very, very keen to obviously develop off the pitch as much as Michael and the team are developing on the pitch. So, recent investment in things such as H-Town, all of the concourse experience that Dave kind of steered the club through at the start of the season, and making sure that we continue to develop all of that. We've recently employed a new marketing and communications director. He's joined us from great experience from clubs such as Manchester City. He's worked within rugby league, and ultimately it's between us as a management team to look at how we engage and find new people to come into this football club, but importantly look after the people that have been around this football club for many, many years. So we're all ambitious, we're all very engaged, and we're all passionate about what we can do for Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, just to touch on something you said, Jake, as well. There's a lot of research around season cards and the age of season card holders, and engaging with the youth and trying to get those other generations to come now. That is really key, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think part of the work we did in the summer around the brand identity of the football club was tapping into our existing fan base, whether old or young. What does it mean to be a supporter of the football club, to come to the games, to be an employee of the football club or to play for the club? And it means everything, and we've got to get to the sort of crux of that, but it means everything. And so, and the second part of that is I like being together with my community, with my tribe, with my team, with my mates at the game, or my classmates, or whatever that is, my family. So, this is a family club. It is a club that's built on togetherness, and we don't just want to appeal to one demographic or another. We've got to find a way to be as inclusive throughout the community as possible. We're all getting older, we're all aging, so we've got to make sure that we can deliver experiences for everybody that's coming to these games. We do the best we can to make sure we can get the results on the pitch, but 11 men going against 11 men, you can't always guarantee that's going to be great or that's going to have the result you want. But what we've got to make sure is that the experience outside of that is as good as it can possibly be and appealing as it can be to whether you're, coming to your first game and you're 5, 6, 7-year-old, or whether you're in our inclusion room, or whether you're in any of the bars and suites, or any of the concourses that you're having a good experience and you're going to come back.
I can, Dave. Sorry, just to add to that, I think that's a really important point because we obviously have put a lot of emphasis on matchday experience since Kevin arrived at the club. And I'm a Huddersfield Town fan because my granddad brought me, and that's what you do, and that was my only option, and that was it from when I was about 7 or 8. I think in certain ways, if you've not got that ingrained family history with a football club, that the world's changed a little bit now, and I hear what people are doing with the kids on a weekend, and there's so many more options to do now than when I was younger, and I'm 40, but that we are competing with these other experiences now for people who don't have that ingrained history of just going to the football with the family. So it is the alternative of coming to Huddersfield Town and that whole match experience around the game, as opposed to going to the cinema, going dry ski slope, whatever it might be, that all the other options you've got, soft play, all these things. We've got to make sure that, because it's the kids, we always talk about pester power here, it's the kids that make the parents want to come back again if they enjoy it, and it's an easy day for the family to have, and affordable as well, and all that stuff. There's a lot that goes into the mix. So I know sometimes you might think, why are we doing X, Y and Z? I didn't need it to become a fan, but I do think the world's changed a little bit now. We need to compete against all these other leisure activities that are available.
Yes, as the father to a daughter, I can confirm the power of pester power. I've got a set of 3 questions, so I'm going to stay with you here, Dave, and I think these questions run into each other in a way. From James Dixon, when will the PA system be fit for purpose? Can't hear anything in the Town Together stand. From Paul Carter, why is the PA system so loud? Supporters shouldn't have to shout at each other. And Jonathan Healy, the in-ground sound system speakers are poor. Are you planning to replace them? And it's something I know comes up a lot, remarkably.
Yeah, it being open, it's probably one of the most frequent complaints or bits of feedback that we get as a club week on week. We know the existing system isn't fit for purpose anymore. You can tell that by just looking at the speakers colloquially. When you go to our ground, you go to others, they've got these banks of 5 that are like omnidirectional, and we've effectively got one pointing in one direction. We have done loads to try and improve the situation with what we have. So fans should have seen in previous seasons, we've had them at pitch side level to try and balance. It's all about balance as much as noise. But the fact that we had questions about this that are a complete dichotomy in terms of their experience of it shows what the problem is, that the system isn't fit for purpose at the moment. And I've got to say that the team at KSDL have tried to improve the situation for us. So even as recently as about 2 months ago, we had an independent sound engineer come to the stadium and spend a whole day mixing with the balancers and trying to address the volume differences that you get in each stand. But it's not even stand by stand, it's areas of stands. So probably the worst for it is the Terry's Together stand, because when the stadium was built, there was no lower tier. Well, when the stadium was built, there was no north stand whatsoever, but the speakers effectively point at the north upper. And then if you sat in the north lower, you get a completely different experience. So in due course, that needs replacing and a new system needs installing. It's just that will cost quite a bit of money, and it's a case of where we deploy the resource that we have available to us at that exact time, because if you're doing one thing, it's in lieu of another, and it's just about timing. But we are very, very aware that that's not good, and it is absolutely on the agenda to sort.
Jake, if I can come to you with this one, and this is a question that I know a lot of Huddersfield Town fans are asking. I've picked out Alex Vasilenko's version of this question, but there was multiple, and I think, let's be honest, understandably so. Given our poor injury record this season, will the club review the medical department structure?
Yeah, we've had a horrendous kind of run of injuries. We had a poor run of injuries last season as well. So, and we've certainly been reviewing this. We're trying to get to the bottom of what's been going on. I think there was there are studies, of course, in that the EFL shares with us, that when you change managers or you change a high performance coach, follows on a spike of injuries, because all managers will say my players aren't fit enough, I need to work them harder, and the fitness coaches come in and want to prove a point, and injuries follow. So we had a situation last year where there was probably a feeling that there was maybe some fitness issues, and they had to, and then we changed managers, and then we had a lot of hamstrings and various soft tissue injuries. We changed around our performance team this summer, and we've had some. We've over indexed in some areas, hamstrings, for example, right? The league average sort of 5 or 6. We're almost double that. And it doesn't help Michael at all to, quite often not have his first 11 available. And so he's having to change sort of formation and styles of play and what have you. So I know he's been very frustrated with that. The medical team is there to get players back on the field. It's not their job really to get them fit, it's to get them on. So we have two teams. We've got a performance team, we've got the medical team, and then we've got, nutritionists and analysts, and these players are tracked, monitored, their load like never before, right? And so we've had some issues in more on the performance side of things. We've had some issues with communication. We've been addressing those. Things have been missed. Load or maximal load has not been communicated, so players are being forced to do more in training that they should be when they should be backed off. And you're seeing more hamstring injuries and soft tissue injuries in games than we should be having. We've also had, unbelievably bad luck with unavoidable injuries. You're starting central defender Balka, pre-season horrific tackle, breaks his ankle. Two left wing backs both go out with horrific knee injuries with bad tackles, players falling on them. We've had two recurring niggling injuries that happened in training, with our own players. So there are some things that are just incredibly frustrating. But that's all clubs are going to have to deal with those things. Where we have some unavoidable injuries is where we've been working hard to make those changes. And Kevin, the chairman's been on top of this with us. We've made changes. We've reorganised the performance department. We've let people go. We've made some changes there where we felt things weren't going right. So, I think this is something that you have to keep reviewing all the time, see what the data's showing you. I think we've tried to address the overloading and the communication issues, and I think we've done that now. But, we will look at this again in the summer and see if additional things need to be addressed.
I think the word you're looking for is balance. All these things have to work in balance with each other, don't they? All these different departments, and that's when they come together and they are working well. That's when you get the squad you want. We've got to move on to season cards, so I'm going to start with you, Paul, if that's all right. And I know.
Thank you for that, David.
I know season cards are a source of debate amongst the fans. I've sorted through quite a lot of questions to sort of get it down to some key questions, basically. So we'll run through. We'll start with you, Paul. I'm sure Jake and Dave, you will also want to jump in and answer at certain points as well. But Tristan Woolers is the first, which is: will season card prices be set according to which division we are in next season?
The short answer is no. What I would like to do for supporters is reward their continued loyalty. So we will be looking to launch the renewal process before the end of the season. I think we all recognise that these supporters have been on such a journey for a number of years. So in terms of making a decision, it will be that we will come up with a pricing structure. And that pricing structure will be then communicated to the supporters before the end of the season, which then gives the loyalty of the supporters that we've got that have been with us for such a long time, that they will get that preferential rate when we go to the renewal period. We will then go off sale. We will then be in a position come the end of the season where we will know the kind of destiny of this football club, and at that point we'll go back onto general sale. That will then determine, it will be a further increase in price, that will then reflect the division in which we're playing for next season.
So just to confirm, and I'm asking the questions that I know lots of fans watching this will be asking, there will be a definite increase, but there will also be a structure before the end of the season, we hope. And
correct.
Things to reward supporters, and I think that's important to get over.
Yeah. And just to jump in on that, I mean, again, people that are watching this evening may be familiar with the piece of work that, again, the management team did with the Altogether Town group a couple of weeks ago. So, we went and presented to ATT because ultimately we want their feedback on some of the pressing issues that this football club has got. I think it is without question that even the chairman has made it very, very clear from the start there has to be some form of increase in a staged process in order to make this football club financially sustainable but also competitive. again, without going into detail, because there is a lot of detail, we explained to Altogether Town some of the changes that are being enforced through the AFL in terms of squad cost management protocol, and even subject to promotion into the Championship, you've got the profit and sustainability rules as well that we need to then adhere to. So in a fashion, football clubs are actually being encouraged to drive revenue, and I think tonight's message really, as we said to ATT, this is not just about season ticket prices. This is about my remit as Chief Revenue Officer coming up with an overall revenue development plan. And examples of that, such as, we're going to talk about it shortly, the stadium acquisition, the stadium match day revenue that we're currently missing out on because it's not our revenue, new sponsorship opportunities on key assets, whether that's the stadium, whether that's the shirt. We're looking at a retail store development in terms of the old rope boat building. We've got some really exciting plans for that as well. And again, hospitality development. People have seen what we've already done with H-Town. So we're going to be driving very, very hard, looking at additional concerts, looking at every aspect of revenue in order to make sure that this football club is as financially stable as it can be in the future.
Next question, David Lloyd, and I think it's quite a specific one, but I think there is a general question that comes from it, and it's, if season card prices increase next year, as a Southern-based fan who has supported the club for over 55 years, any additional cost will mean to attend a home game, the cost will be between £100 and £200 a game, depending on my mode of travel. Would the club look at a ticket scheme for fans like myself? And I think the more general question is, do you have ideas, schemes potentially that to aid fans longer term with situations such as this?
Every football club will look at different opportunities to reward the people that have been around for a long, long time. And I think our initial project is to look at the season card and make sure that the season card is still as attractive as possible, that the game-by-game model is still not as attractive as the season card, because ultimately we want people to have the same seat that they've had for a number of years. Yes, people can move around the stadium and different experiences, but I think our prime kind of example at this minute in time is make the season card still as attractive so that this gentleman can come regardless of how many fixtures he can attend.
Jake, I'm going to put this one to you. This has come from Tom Reaney. Has the board considered how a potential drop in renewals could impact on-field performances? Historically, the team has performed better with more fans in the stadium.
Well, yeah, we'd all like more fans in the stadium, and I know the players. There's a direct correlation between support and atmosphere and player performance. For us, we didn't see a drop on the back of a relegation. We didn't see a drop in season card purchases, and we're certainly grateful for the support and sticking with us despite a tough time. We don't take that lightly in terms of how we think about the balance of number of season cards sold and what the price increase might look like, or range of prices might look like. So there's certainly a threshold in our calculation where you start charging too much, you're certainly going to see a drop off. We don't want to get to that point. As Paul said, we want some incremental increases. We want a range of ticket prices because we only have one. We want affordability in various parts of the stadium. We want to maintain that. So I think the supporters will see, they're going to get options and choices. They're not going to be excluded based on price. That's not the objective here. So we feel what we put to the supporters, in the coming weeks, we hope addresses the needs of the clubs and of the supporters. And so I don't think we don't anticipate, or we hope we don't see a significant drop off.
Dave, if I can come to you for this one from Josh Barnes. Why don't we have a direct debit option for the season tickets? With prices predicted to go up, some people may want the option of a direct debit like other clubs.
I can't speak to other clubs. It's something we've investigated, and the ticket office team work with Paul really closely, but on the logistics side, it's certainly something I've been involved in as well. The long story short on that is that banks are quite nervous about offering direct debit schemes to football clubs, because if you do a credit check on a football club, it doesn't come back too well, unfortunately. So they, obviously, then if something chronic was to happen again, like this won't, but if something happened to Huddersfield Town, or we get another pandemic or something like that, it gives the banks another layer of issue to consider. So it's not something that, when we have approached them, that we've found someone that's particularly willing to engage with us on that front. We obviously have the V12 finance option, which is a kind of a pseudo direct debit scheme, albeit with a third party that we engage. Granted, there is a fee to kind of sign up to that. It is a modest one, but there is a fee involved in that. We're speaking to Paul this morning, I think it was, about this as well, about something similar, about other options we can have to help fans pay for things. So we're looking at PayPal, we were discussing this morning, as an option where it might be another option for fans who are familiar with how that works. There's not the fees involved, perhaps, that there are with other offers. So as of right now, unfortunately, we can't offer a direct debit scheme. It would be a little tricky. Logistically as well, it would be a lot of work on our side comparatively to what we have with V12. But nothing's off the table. We want it to make it as easy as possible for supporters to engage with us, give them loads of options on how they pay for things as well. So we'd actually quite like something like that, but it's just not possible right now.
We're going to move on from season cards, but I think what is clear and I think you need, that's been reiterated by all of you, is just the amount of work that is going into that option for next season. It's clearly not something you're taking lightly. But I want to go in and just talk about the stadium a little bit. Now, I've got a list of questions that I want to run through reasonably quickly. So whoever feels best qualified to jump in and answer, please do so. So the first is from Adam Sykes. Are there any plans to extend H-Town or create other areas in the stadium for more fans to fit into?
I'll take that if that's okay. Start with. So H-Town's been a real success. That's the first thing. So thank you to everyone that's been, visited, bought a drink, bought some food on match days, because we're really, really pleased with how that's panned out. I know, again, from being a fan to working here, that we've been crying out for a space where people can not be outside on a match day, and I think that's been a real success. The next thing on that is the non-match day offering, and I've got to take the opportunity now to say that it will be available on non-match days very soon. So hopefully people think about how they can use that for birthday parties, whatever it might be, because that's an important part of the mix too. I think it's fair to say, based on the success that we've had early doors with H-Town, it has prompted other conversations about whether we can create other areas around the ground, potentially enhance some of the concourses even further, do things in other pockets of space that we have currently, or maybe in the future, because we realise that people enter the stadium from all different directions, and that H-Town, where it is on the north side, might not be dead convenient if you're coming from the south and you sit in the south stand or the Kilner. Again, obviously stadium ownership plays into all of this, but we are investing in spaces before that process is complete. So short answer is yes, because of how well H-Town's been received, we'd be silly not to look at other areas.
Question from Josh Grants. Any plans to implement new technology for fans? For example, QR codes around seats to scan for live stats, like what is on screens in the concourse?
Probably me again. So yes, and we could talk about technology broadly, and Paul could talk about some of the things we've done in the concourses recently to try and help fans get served quicker. I know that's a point of contention, but I think when it comes to technology and things like QR codes and things like that, the big pivotal piece that makes all that possible is in-stadium Wi-Fi, and it is a question we get every so often. We've done quite a large scoping process into that, and it won't surprise anyone, it's a really expensive job to do correctly. There's no point doing kind of a cheaper solution that then doesn't work for anyone, because we just waste a lot of money into it. It is a potentially up to £500,000 job to put fully comprehensive in-stadium Wi-Fi for supporters on there. We'd love to do it because there's obvious benefits for us, revenue benefits for Paul and his team to have that kind of intranet created within the ground. But it's kind of what I said earlier, it's in what order you do things at what time, and we've only got so much that we can invest in certain areas at once, so it's on the list again. As technology moves on, hopefully it becomes a bit cheaper for us to achieve as well, because new ways of doing things happen all the time, and we'd love to do it. We would love to do it, absolutely love to do it. We do have it in specific areas now. H-Town's got Wi-Fi, for example, but to make all the other new technology like scanning the QR codes work, that feels like the big pivotal piece that we need to crack first.
Can I just jump in on the end of that as well, David? So, again, supporters will hopefully see the investment in technology that is happening within the stadium. Everything that you see in H-Town currently is what can then be extended within the stadium once the ownership piece is done. So again, without going into the kind of finer detail, within the concourse, all of the till points are still very, very old-fashioned, very, very traditional. They don't communicate with each other. There's manual reconciliation at the end of every fixture, versus what you've got in H-Town, where everything is fast track.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all collectively spend time on a match day going around the stadium. We're constantly in H-Town monitoring people's footfall, monitoring the way that people are being served. And I'd like to say that I've never really seen any pressure points where there's been people backed up saying, we can't get a drink, we can't get food. Further to that, we're working with a company called Global Payments, where they can then implement literally QR codes. So, you know, in the future, we can look at things such as people ordering from table, food then being taken to them. And yes, you know, we're looking at additional investments, which you've seen in Cowshed, working with Box Bar. So again, fast track, go up, tap, get a pint, you know, and away you go. So every time we look at developments within the stadium, technology is a huge part of that. And again, the benefit for people like me and others with working within football, we can constantly look at best practice. So again, my ambition is to bring to this football club the best practice that we've seen elsewhere. So, you know, we're looking at clubs such as Burnley, you know, Birmingham City. They've spent an absolute fortune in technology and enhancing that supporter experience. Clubs such as Aston Villa, clubs such as Leicester City. So once the stadium ownership piece is concluded, we can continue to make those investments, which enhances the supporters' experience. But again, importantly, by enhancing the experience, helps us to generate the revenue, because people can get the drink that they wanted or the food that they wanted. And again, you know, just making sure that this is a very well-run business.
Yeah, we had a question from Stephen Greaves about when are we going to sort the problem out of getting a drink at half-time. I think that question has been fairly solidly answered there. Enoch Presley-Blythe has asked the question that I think we've all had. Can we please have a half-time bird of prey show? Now, that sounds like a flippant question, but there is a point to be made about half-time entertainment, isn't there? So, Dave, I think it might be you on this one.
Not forgoing the bird of prey element of it. We're always, I think, can we enhance half-time is a question that we're always looking at. We've probably had more variation than ever this season, actually, in terms of different things. So Paul and his team have done some activations with some of our partners. So Sports Broker recently at the Birmingham game, that was a fan-based competition. I think there's something coming up at Peterborough, the Utility as well. That's going to be another fan-based competition where hopefully people can win stuff that's entertaining. There's always a balance to be struck around not doing something to the pitch as well, which is something that we're very aware of. But we're always open to suggestions on this front as well. So Paul just made a really good point that we don't compete with other clubs off the pitch in terms of these kind of things. So if anyone ever sees anything that they'd like to see brought here, then please let us know via the Sport Services team, however you want to let us know about this stuff, because we're open to ideas.
I'd quite like a bird of prey show.
Okay.
This one, I think, probably goes to you, Jake. Are our plans for the stadium and the wider area dependent on if we gain promotion, or will these happen regardless?
Part of the uniqueness, right, of this football club is the setting, the fantastic setting that it's in. 53-acre site. Has in the past had some really kind of expansive, development plans around the HD1 project that didn't come to fruition, but it was an example of what could be in this part of the town. From day one, it's always been the chairman's, focus that the sort of old model of sort of football ownership is challenged. It has its challenge, and it's constant investment and the sort of version 2.0, as he calls it, very much includes the activation of the stadium and the surrounding areas. He's been clear that this is going to be a destination not just for football. That the ambition for the stadium is also to be the premier conference and events destination in the region. It's currently the largest, but it's tired. It needs to be modernised and brought back. We're spending a lot of time and energy on what that could look like to build that business. He wants this to be a real concert destination. Right? We've got a great concert this summer with Stereophonics. We want multiple concerts in the summer window. We want this place really to be such a critical part of the investment that's going in over the next, decade into the town centre, and the great expansion of the university, and all of this kind of development coming towards us, we are excited by what those 53 acres could mean for the town, for match days and non-match days. Kevin has absolutely put his money where his mouth is and has invested millions into a stadium that he doesn't own.
Let me just stop you there. Let me go straight into with MF and a question that a lot of people had, because you're going down this path anyway. So let's just ask the question as it is. Where are we at with the stadium takeover right now?
We've made great progress. I've spent quite a bit of time on this since I've been here, because it is critical. It is one of the top priorities for us. Certainly getting back up into the Championship, number one, but getting control of the stadium. And we've made great progress. The partners we work with, Council and the Giants, have been super to work with, and we've been working towards a solution that is right for the three stakeholders. As we sit here today, I think we're closer than we've ever been, and we're broadly in agreement on what the future should look like and how we get there. Where we sit today is the sort of final process is with the solicitors. I've learnt more about stamp duty, land tax than I ever thought I would ever have to know as working in a football club. Tax advisors and solicitors are going through all the documents and the paperwork now. So I think we're in the final stages of what has been quite a long, substantive journey. And throughout, Kevin has been unwavering about, regardless, what division, League One, Championship, Premier League, the goal is to bring the stadium back to the football club. And as Paul alluded to, that, why is that critical? Because it transforms the future of the football club. There are so many things right now we can't do that our counterparts throughout the EFL can do. So we're at a huge disadvantage. And the world we live in now with EFL, we are working against ratios of revenue in terms of how competitive we can be on the field. So it's difficult for us to compete with Sunderlands and big stadiums, or stadiums that control catering, teams that control parking and stadium naming rights, and all of these concerts and events. We don't, so once we bring all that in, it changes the dynamic of what we can do as a football club, but it also very quickly allows us to think about what this site could mean for the next 10 years. What does Huddersfield need on this site, over the next few decades? Part of Kevin's background is a developer, so he understands that world. He understands how transformative this will be. So, long-winded answer, whether we go up this year or if we didn't go up this year, it has no bearing on the determination. And as I said, we've invested heavily in H-Town and all kinds of other spaces regardless. That will continue. We're investing in all the new lounges and restaurants and retail and all these things that we're working on now ahead of next season. My hope is before the end of this season we've resolved this and we've got it over the line. But we're in I think we're in the final stages of it now. But regardless of what happens with the team this season, next season, over the next 10 seasons, that is a top priority for us.
We've got one last question on the stadium. I'm going to come to you with Dave with this. I'm just conscious of trying to get through as many of these questions as we possibly can. And it's from Adrian Oram, and it basically comes down to this. The parking situation, Dave, is not ideal for some people with disabilities, and some people with disabilities who perhaps don't qualify necessarily for a disability badge. Is that something the club is looking at?
Yes, we constantly look at it. So the ticket office team, literally about 12, 18 months ago, actually did a bit of an audit of where the parking is to make sure that it was with the people that need it the most. We are lucky in a sense, and people who go to grounds up and down the country will tell you this, we've actually got quite a lot of parking for a stadium, which is really good. But we're still oversubscribed in terms of people who want a parking space or potentially need one because they've got mobility issues or something like that prevents them from getting to the site or from very easily. There's no way of solving that perfectly for everyone, unfortunately. We'd love to. The guys are creating different things to try and help. So fans might not know we've got a system now where you can actually get within the kind of stadium footprint and get dropped off near Legends Cafe, near H-Town, which, again, even that trip to where you sit might be a bit difficult for some people, but at least it's an option. So what I'd say is if you've got a difficulty in this sense, get in touch with the ticket office team. We've got some great people in there. Michelle McQueen, who's our DLO as well, is there, who's here to help people who've got special requirements in terms of the mobility and stuff. Just get in touch with the team and we'll do what we can without being able to promise that we'll solve everyone's situation perfectly.
Dave, I'm going to stay with you for this one. I do have a vested interest here, as I have a daughter who plays for the under-14s Huddersfield Town women's side, who are currently invincibles in both league and cup. With the women's game growing year on year, are there any plans to further support the women's team from Dawn Pickham? But we also have essentially the same question from Sophia Lyons and from Suzanne Tristan about trying to bring the women's team a bit more under the banner of Huddersfield Town per se. Are there plans to do that? Is that something we can look at?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to the women's club probably more than we ever have done, in my opinion. It's something I do personally with the chair, Dave Mallin. Jake's been involved too, and we've got a really good relationship with Dave. He's a really good man. It's currently a completely independent club. We support that club now more than we ever have done. So you can always do more, by the way. I'm not saying it's perfect, but we, in kind now, either in direct cash or by paying for things that try and take their costs away, we're over £50,000 for this season in terms of support. So that's paying for travel, that's paying for ground rent at Shelley, things like that. So the relationship's good, but yeah, in terms of longer term, it's probably a similar answer than I gave about a completely different subject a while ago. To take on the kind of senior women's team at the moment, it would probably be approaching £200,000 to £250,000 to do that. That isn't necessarily means that we can't do it, but it's just where we deploy our resource at the time. And we're very open with Dave, and we had this conversation, Jake and I, in the summer, that last summer wasn't the time for us to take that on because we had quite a lot of expenditure already mapped out for the current football club in other areas. But it's a conversation we're constantly having with the women's team. I know it's really important to Kevin, the owner, as well. He's got a real vested interest in women's football, which he's done things, you know, he's some of his tea time with the chairman. He's at his request has specifically held those with female supporters of the football club, and that's a subject that came up again. So it's certainly part of the discussion. Obviously, there's a lot of things, as we covered tonight, that are all part of the discussion, but we'll certainly, in the interim, look to support the women's team in every viable way that we can.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying as well. For example, one of the practical things you're doing is, but my daughter's training at Canalside one night a week, and there are things like that are going on. So, again, I'm conscious of time. I'm going to come to you, Paul, first with this one, but I think, Jake, you may have something to say on this as well. Just throwing it forward to the future a little bit. Andy Firth has asked, the owner has really invested in the club's infrastructure and the team, which is brilliant. It looks like at best we will end up in the playoffs this year, and that is at risk currently. How does that leave us financially going forward if we don't get promoted? Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to go back to the women's side, David, if I can. So, again, many people know that I've left Sheffield United in last summer to join Huddersfield Town. We had a great relationship with the women's team. We are looking to emulate that here at Huddersfield Town as well from a commercial perspective. So in terms of conversations, people will see that we have mobilised this football club tremendously well in the last 9 months. We are out very, very engaging and aggressively, if you like, with the business community. We recently launched the Town Business kind of networking series. So there will always be businesses within this town and certainly the wider Kirklees region that the men's team is not always the right opportunity for them. So there'll be some businesses that want to look at a CSR angle, and that is where us having options such as the academy or the women's team or the community foundation. Holistically, we want to be the ambassadors for this football club and the town, because again, we understand and we recognise this club has been, it's been in the Premier League. Everything that we're trying to do, this club has been there before. So the biggest brand in any town or any city is usually the football club. So our ambition now is, if we can reinvigorate the biggest brand in the town, we reinvigorate the town, and that is a collective message. In terms of football, it's a business like no other. So we can set 3-year plans, 5-year plans. Unfortunately, the monetary values goes up and down depending on division in which you play. So again, commercially, things like front of jersey or front of shirt, as we would say in the UK, you're looking at low six-figure numbers within League One. You're looking at high six-figure numbers in the Championship. Get to the dizzy heights of the Premier League. We're doing deals at £7 million. So, that is where we need to be in order to drive the revenue for this football club. So we've got the models. I think we've all worked within football long enough. We know what League One looks like. We certainly know what the Championship looks like, and we know we need to be sustainable, but certainly, as Jake said, where we need to be competitive.
If I can throw to you, Jake, just to give some thoughts on that one then as well.
Yeah, look, the reality is it has an impact financially on the club not being in the Championship, whether that's the significant drop in media distributions you get from the league, or the rate card you can get for the assets that Paul discussed. Well aware of that, and be under no illusion that anybody at this football club, whether on the business side, or on the team side, or ownership side, the goal is to get back into the Championship as soon as possible. We're sitting here now in 5th place. We've had a bit of a blip, or a second blip, 1 point in 4 games. Nobody's happy with that. Everyone's working to address it like they did earlier on in the season. And we've put a little bit of distance between the automatic spot. Yeah, we're aware of that, but we've got quite a few games to go. We're all working hard to sort of close that gap. So the goal of automatic promotion is not gone. The goal of promotion through the playoffs has not gone. So we're still working hard to make those happen, but no doubt about it, it's going to have a financial effect. But again, as with the stadium, regardless of division, we are moving forward with investments into the squad in the summer, regardless of division. We're going to make investments at the training ground. We're looking at new high-performance building that's much needed. We're looking at investments in the stadium that are going to provide a great experience for the supporters, help Paul on the revenue side. So all of that is going to happen regardless. So yes, there is a financial impact, but it does not take us off course in terms of what we've said when we acquired the club and where we are now and where we want to take it.
Okay, that's brilliant. Frank Winters and George Kilder sort of asked questions along similar lines, and it's just to reiterate that there is a contingency plan, isn't there, regardless of what league you're in going forward?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we have to be prudent in terms of how we do the financial modelling of every team will do that at every season, depending on where they are coming to the end of the season, if they're going up or going down, or they think they're going to stay. So we'll have a League One plan and a Championship plan, whether that's sort of recruitment or whether that's other areas of the operation. So, but that's going. But as I said, it's not a if we didn't go up, there's not a massive shut down all this, scale back, stop what we're doing. No, it's actually double down, and let's get at it again.
Brilliant. Time is against us. We're at our sort of hour now, and we've tried to answer as many questions as we can. But I want to reiterate, we had so many responses to this. I honestly think we could have done an hour on season cards alone. We could have done an hour on the stadium alone. I could have done an hour with each of you alone. We've tried to cover as much as we possibly can, but I just want to give Jake the chance to just have a final word.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the hour. And just closing, I'd say that, we had an enormous amount of questions submitted, and of course you can only get through so many, but I did read all of the questions, and I understand the sentiment of some of the questions. There were frustration and some anger in some of those questions, and we feel that too. We're not sitting where we want to be right now in the table. Nothing's completely perfect, right? We're a work in progress. But I would just say that the people at the football club, whether they're on the team side or on the business side or throughout the organisation, are working tirelessly for the football club. 7 days a week. They put their heart and soul into this. And it doesn't always go the way we want it to all the time. And that's football. That's life. That's just the way it is. But no one here is is shirking the responsibility. Everyone's sticking towards the goal. Everyone's working really hard, and you know, we've set some ambitious goals this year, and we're going to continue. We're not going to give up. We're going to continue. So, believe me, we're all, Michael and everybody, frustrated with 1 point in the last 4 games. It's not good enough. And we'll do what we need to do to address that and work through that. And we've got 17 games to go. As I said, automatic promotion is still on the table. So we've just got to do the running now, and we've got to get behind the boys. We need you. We need the supporters to get behind the boys and get us over the line. We've got tough games ahead, and we want to get to that finish line. And we appreciate your support thus far, and we need you to stay with us. And let's, you know, let's hopefully we're celebrating at the end of this season. But thank you all for being with us today. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the passion and the engagement. Yeah, appreciate everything. Thanks, David.
So last thing, I just want to thank the panel, because I think Huddersfield Town as a club has always thrived on communication and conversation. So I think these online fan forums, hopefully they can continue in the future, and asking questions is an important part of this business. So thank you very much to all of you for joining us. Good evening.